Oh, hey there. This is my latest video, and in it I'm going to review, a good film that I saw a couple of months ago, the 2012 science fiction film Chronicle, which was written by Max Landis and directed by Josh Trank. Now, if the last name Landis sounds familiar to you, that would be because Max Landis is the son of John Landis, who was a well-known director in the 70s and 80s. And he directed National Lampoon's Animal House, as well as my personal favorite comedy horror, An American Werewolf in London. And then there was, of course, the god-awful 1998 sequel, American Werewolf in Paris, that, but should never even been made, like 10 times worse than the original American Werewolf in London. But anyway, onto my main point. Chronicle, I guess, stars or chronicles three Seattle high school seniors: Andrew, his cousin Matt, and a fellow high schooler named Steve. And one night they're at a rave, and Andrew gets beat up by these guys who accuse him of looking at their girlfriend, or like videotaping her, or taping her or whatever. And they, travel to like this secluded area, which is close to the rave in the middle of the woods somewhere, this hole. And they go down it because they have these strange, like, vibrating sounds coming from it. And they discover this bizarre alien-type object, be a UFO or a meteor of some kind. I don't know, a UFO meteor or something else, who knows, some strange object that's glowing blue. When they come near it, it turns red, and their nose starts to bleed, and the whole thing just blanks out. And the rest of the film shows, a couple of weeks later, where they're in like a backyard or a field of some kind, and they're throwing this object around. And they suddenly show that they're able to control like this object from hitting each other, and it's like strange. And you discover they have telekinetic abilities now. They're able to control objects with their minds because of coming in contact with the object. And so the first part of the film basically chronicles the three kids, and they're just having fun goofing off and using their telekinesis for mischief. But at the same time, one of the kids, Andrew, he has an abusive father, and his mother is sick and dying in bed, and that causes some frustration for him. And so his abusive father, combined with the kids at school that are always bullying him, you can tell that at some point, it's going to get to him. They're going to use his powers for like negative purposes, and that's what happens basically. But prior to that time, they eventually learn that they can also fly. They can use their own bodies and fly through the air. Some pretty cool scenes. They're flying through the air. They're just having fun, enjoying everything. It's all cool. But then, like his father, catches him, or accuses him of doing horrible things, and he attacks him. Then he attacks, the Andrew, and Andrew fights back, and hurts him, and he just leaves, I guess. And then later on, you see him in the sky, flying around, like during a storm of some kind. And Steve goes up there and he sees him. He's asking, like, what happened to you? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you seem strange. You've been hit, and like asking all these questions. And Andrew gets angrier and angrier. And a lightning bolt hits Steve, and he dies. And later on, you see him at his funeral, and like Matt questioning Steve about what happened and all that. And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, what happened? Because no one knows they have those powers. So they don't know who to turn to, so they're very confused. And the movie starts to get a lot darker at this point. Although it's not really all that light to begin with, but it gets really, really dark at this point. And from then on, it shows Andrew's eventual downward spiral, and becomes darker and angrier. And Matt tries to stop him, but but Andrew's stronger than him because he uses his abilities, he develops them more because as they explain at some point in the movie, it's like a muscle, and the more you develop it, the stronger it gets. So yeah. Anyway, as the film progresses, eventually gets to one point where Andrew's in the hospital and his father comes in there and he, berates him and tries to harm him and all this other bad stuff. And at some point, Andrew lifts his arm and throws his father outside of the hospital bed along with like half the wall. And at this point toward the end, there's a huge Hollywood type action sequence, where he's flying around the city and causing mischief and destroying buildings and hurting people and just going crazy in general. And Matt, hears, Matt like senses, I guess, Andrew's disturbed, state of mind, and he goes out and tries to, see what's going on, and then they eventually drive out and they see that, he's gone insane and he's, on top of this like building somewhere, and he just tries to stop him from like going crazy and tries to talk him out of it, but Andrew won't listen because he's like an apex predator or something like that. Like, I don't know what that is. But he's completely lost his mind at this point. He's going around killing people, and he's all bloody and covered in bandages, and he looks kind of scary. Actually, it's really like adds to the whole effect. I thought it was a really good aspect of it. The ending was a bit too Hollywood for my interest, but whatever. No, the movie's perfect. So anyway, eventually at one point they're on like the ground, and he's destroying buildings by this statue, and Matt keeps telling him to stop, please stop, don't make me do this, and Andrew doesn't listen, he can't listen, so Matt, uses his power to take a spear from the statue, and it goes right through Andrew's body, killing him. He dies, Matt kills him. And after that, Matt flies away, and next thing you see him, he's in Tibet, and he's on this monastery in the middle of a snow field or something like that, and he tells Andrew that he's gonna find out what happened to them, and what happened down there, and doesn't care how long it takes, for the sake of both him and Steve, I guess, because they both died. And he just flies away, and the last thing you see is a picture of the monastery and the very quiet peacefulness that Andrew mentioned earlier in the film. And it's a very peaceful ending to the film. So that's basically it. And I personally found it, interesting. It was very interesting, film, and I liked how, it combined teenage drama with superhero origin story and a science fiction Akira aspect to it. It was inspired by Akira, apparently. He definitely shows. It was very it was a mix, and it was from dark to light and then dark again, and it was a very good film. It had a lot of different moods and tones to it. It was a very, very good film. I really enjoyed it. So the acting was okay. The special effects were pretty good, although they were a bit too noticeable at times. But overall, it was a good film. Give it a 4 out of 5.